Well, howdy. I am here with Gregory Cheadle.
Glad to be here.
And Greg or Gregory?
Gregory is fine.
Gregory, you are a candidate for District 1 Congress.
I am.
Well, tell me, first of all, just a little bit about yourself. This is kind of an introductory video for folks that don't know you.
All right.
Where do you hail from? What's your story? And why are you running for, first of all, why are you running for Congress?
Well, I'm from Reading, just outside of Reading. I've been in Reading area for 17 years now, but prior to that, I lived in Oakland. Went to school in the Bay Area. Did my undergrad at Cal State Hayward, which is now Cal State East Bay. I did psychology, physiological psychology, and pre-med as an undergrad. Then I went on to graduate school and did a master's in public administration with an option in healthcare administration.
You also have your Juris Doctor.
And then I have my JD that I got from Cal Northern School of Law in Chico. So I'm one of those nerdy rascals, an academic. But I'm running for Congress because,
Why?
you know, for the longest, I have felt that the people have not been represented. When I look at the people who were running for office at the time when I first started with Wally Herger, and I looked at his education and so forth, and I'm light years ahead of him. And I thought that, with all that I have, all that I've been blessed to have with respect to education, that I have two choices. I could either use it to better myself financially, or I can use it to better society. And I opted to use it to better society. And that's why I'm running.
What are some of the issues here in the North State that you're passionate about?
Well, in the North State, generally speaking, I'm passionate about fairness and justice. Uh, the North State is so huge; it's so diverse. With respect to fairness and justice, there was a shooting in Chico. A mentally ill man, a black man, was shot and killed by Chico PD. I don't know all the factors in it, but those are things that concern me. I haven't taken a side, and I'm there to support the family. Then you contrast that with the people throughout the region who are struggling, and doing whatever I can to help those people in their struggle with respect to education and employment.
There are a lot of folks in Northern California that are struggling.
A lot.
Why do you understand their plight? Why do you understand their situation?
Well, as a black person, uh, I did not get those degrees because I had a silver spoon in my mouth. I struggled. I was born poor and I'm still poor. And so I'm still struggling. So I can relate to the people who are struggling. I'm a candidate. I buy my clothes from the thrift store. I let you know that I'm still struggling. And so I can relate to people who do struggle. Having gone through the struggle myself, having gone through the years of education, the years of wondering whether or not my business is going to be viable. I know what it's like to struggle, and so I can relate just about to anyone who's struggling.
Now, tell me a little bit about what you do for a living. And you showed me a picture of a playhouse.
Right.
That's intriguing.
I build luxury playhouses. I'm a real estate broker. Uh, okay. Yeah, I'm a real estate broker. And I build luxury playhouses. I built them throughout California.
It was like a play mansion that I looked at.
They are. They're well constructed. They're commissioned. One of the funny things that I did, I built a dog house for a family in Phoenix, and I made it had air conditioning, tile floors, cultured rock exterior, over the top. They came and picked it up. Then they had a crane at their home in Phoenix, and they got it from the truck, and they had a crane lift it over the house and place it where they wanted it. So my clients are interesting.
Because like the one you showed me was like a $20,000 playhouse.
$20,000. And the money's out there, and people with a lot of they won't even blink when it comes to that kind of money.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the issues that you like? Let's talk about some North State issues.
All right.
Things like water,
Yeah.
things like property rights, things like creating a new state, things like all of these kinds of issues. Tell me some of the things you're passionate about as far as issues go, like that.
Well, let's just deal with the state. We have the state of Jefferson movement going strong. You know, California is too big to be governed by one person. You know, we have a population approaching 40 million people to have one person. It's basically the governor of California is the president of California because California is basically a country. So it needs to be split. It's such a diverse population as well. It's also a diverse area with respect to its geography and topography. You know, you have the deserts, the mountains, the ocean, the coast rather, and so the people are different, and so we need representation up in the northern part of California because we're not being represented. You know, we have in the district we have the state assembly person having what upwards of 11 counties that he is representing, and the same thing with the state senator. That's just way too much. And you go down into LA or the Bay Area, you will have one or two assembly or state senators for one county. So we're not being represented well up in the North State. So that's an issue. And Sacramento needs to hear us. And Sacramento's not willing to hear us because they don't want to and they don't have to. And that's why they can get away with what they're trying to do with respect to water. Even though LA is a drought driven area, they want to take water from the North State. And they will continue to try to take water from the North State because we are underrepresented. If we had the representation that we should and could have, it would be far more of a fair fight in Sacramento than it is right now.
How can you help us as our congressman?
I think, first of all, you know, there's a lot of power in DC, and that power is not necessarily vested in the congressperson. Right now, on the Republican side, we have to deal with Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. So we have to get their ear, and I would work feverishly to get their ear and let them know what's going on in this part of the country. That's first and foremost. And being a person who is not sold out to special interests and corporate interests, it will be more difficult for me to get their ear, but I will get their ear because they're going to need my vote in the things that they want to do. So it's a matter of diplomacy and also having the people aware of what is going on and to have the people behind me. It's not enough to have my voice in DC. What has to happen is that I have to have a rallying cry, a clarion call from the population. So the population needs to get behind me as well.
Now, speaking of you, we've talked about before I turned the camera on a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about a candidate for personal profit versus a candidate such as yourself that is holding yourself out as not a candidate for personal profit.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? And am I correct in understanding that Doug LaMalfa has is the largest recipient of farm subsidies of any congressman?
I don't know that he's. I don't think. I doubt very seriously if he is the largest uh, recipient of subsidies from the United States government for farm. I think there's several people far above him, which is even more unnerving because there's so much money that has gone out. But with respect to subsidies, that has changed with the new farm law in that now these things are muddied under a program of crop insurance. And what's really disturbing about that is that now we do not have transparency. So we do not know who's getting what when. Prior to the passage of the current farm bill, we could see who was getting subsidies and how much they were getting. But now with this new program, there is no transparency. We do not know who was getting what, how much, when. And that's disturbing to me that we can't have that. We can't see who's getting what.
Are you a candidate for personal profit?
If
Are
I
you running to do this because you want to make cash?
if I wanted to make cash, I would have made it a long time ago doing something else. As I said, I'm a candidate who goes. This is from a thrift store. Everything I'm wearing is from a thrift store. Actually, the pants are not. These were a gift, uh, but they were used. So it's not a matter of personal profit for me because personally, I see the office of representative as a sacred position. I have to give an account to a much higher authority for everything that I do.
Who do you have to give an account to?
The man upstairs. And so uh, I don't take this thing lightly at all. I've been given the wherewithal to run. This is my fourth time running. It's unheard of for a candidate to be running for the fourth time in this district, especially a person of color. And so I work hard, I campaign hard, not because of any personal profit I want to make out of this, but because I have the talents and the education and so forth and so on to make a difference in society, and that goes far further than any monetary compensation I could ever get.
May I be so bold as to ask, is color an issue still in Northern California in our district?
Well, color is definitely an issue in our district, and color runs the gamut. You can go anywhere from bias to prejudice to flat out racism. Uh,
Are you experiencing any of that? Is that still an issue that we are dealing with?
it's still an issue that we're dealing with. Everyone has an implied bias to some extent, and when it comes to voting, I think there's more there's a tendency for people to view me in a negative light as opposed to a positive light. With all my education and so forth, having a bachelor's degree, having a master's degree, having a law degree, I'm still not seeing high. There are people with a high school education. A white person with a high school education would uh, probably appear to be more educated than I am. Just by, even if we're both dressed the same, they're going to look at the white person and think that that person, even though that person has a high school education, they will look at that person and give him the benefit of the doubt that he is has a higher education than I do. There is a
Now,
bias there.
speaking of color,
Yes.
you became known
Yeah.
as, can I ask about this one?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
As
Go ahead.
Donald Trump's African American,
Yes.
my
Yes.
African
My
American.
African American.
In fact, I understand that you have a book coming out, and that is the title, correct?
The book will be out and it is entitled My African American.
Now,
Yes.
tell me the scenario, because most do not know the scenario. The
They do not.
media twisted it.
Yes.
They just went with a very small little clip.
Right.
Tell me what actually happened and where this all went down.
Well, I was at the airport. I was positioned very front. Uh, Trump came. It was one of those moments. Uh, Trump came out and he was speaking and he made in his speech he was saying that he had a good friend. He's a good fan, an African American. He said he had an African American fan. He's a good friend. And I raised my hand and I said, "I'm here." And because I was just goofing off, I'm just having fun. And but the media never showed that, but they just showed Trump looking out in the audience saying, "Oh, scanning the audience, there's my African American." And so I've lived in infamy ever since. It was one of those moments where a joke turned out to be something other than a joke. And worldwide fame over the weekend, it just blew up, and all over the world that story went, and it's still going.
What is the book about that you're writing?
Well, the book is about the fact that blacks historically in this country have been fodder for both parties, for the Democrats and the Republican Party, and that neither
What do you
party,
mean by fodder for?
well, to be used and abused. Neither party has been a friend of blacks since 1877. Prior to 1877, the Republicans were friends of blacks. And, the first black Congress people were Republicans. But after 1877, when the Republicans turned their backs on blacks, that was the end of any party being a friend of blacks. And so the book details the historical abuses of power by the Democrats, by the Republicans, and even by the Supreme Court. But also, on a lighter note and a more constructive note, the book will also talk about remedies, how we can get from the position that we're in now as a people of color to a higher position where we will be better off financially.
You are a man of encouragement. You are a man that gives empowerment to those that you connect with.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about, give me some encouraging thoughts.
Well, I'll give you an encouraging thought. Never, ever give up. Uh, there are people, the first time I ran for office, there were people scoffing, Second time, fewer people. Third time, even fewer people. Now, no one's scoffing. They're like, this is for real. This guy is not a joke. So never, ever give up, because once you give up, it's over. So never, ever. No, forget the odds. If I looked at the odds, I wouldn't be here today. The odds were saying that I should be either in jail, dead, or on drugs. Forget the odds. Go ahead and do what you want to do.
Is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked?
Well, probably, but we won't answer that
Okay,
now.
very well. Gregory Cheadle, I will share with folks a link to how to connect with you,
Right.
your Facebook page, and things like that. And our best to you.
Hey, thank you so much. I really
and
appreciate
thank you for coming up to Siskiyou County and connecting
man,
with
this place
us.
is beautiful.
What do you think? What did you think? What do you think about Siskiyou County?
Man, Siskiyou County is a beautiful place to live. I'm not. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it's so serene. I think if people lived here, their blood pressures would be far lower than they are.
Cool. Our best to you.
Thank you.